This video is looking at the topic B1, cell biology, discussing cell division and chromosomes, the cell cycle and mitosis. So we're looking at the structure of chromosomes. When we delve inside the nucleus there, we see, if we're talking about a human body cell or a human cell, any cell that is human but not one of the sex cells, so not a gamete, which is the eggs and the sperm, they all have 23 pairs of chromosomes. Okay, and when we look at that chromosome, we can see a section of the chromosome is called the gene, and the gene gives us the information that codes for a particular characteristic or trait. When we look here in more detail at the structure of a chromosome, we can see that it's actually two chromatids joined by a centromere. Okay, this bit's important if you're taking the higher paper. So we can see number one there is labelled as a chromatid. Okay, so this is the genetic information that's then copied to make two chromatids, and the two chromatids are joined together with at the centromere, which is labelled as point 2 there, the red dot, and that we call the whole thing a chromosome. Okay, so when we split the two cells, when cell division occurs, it actually breaks at the centromere and those two chromatids go their separate ways. Okay, part 3 there is labelled as the short arm of the right chromatid, and then 4 is the long arm of the right chromatid. So just to be clear, the whole structure that we see in that picture is a chromosome. It is two chromatids that are identical strands of replicated chromosome joined together by a centromere, and that centromere splits during cell division and those chromatids go their separate ways. We'll use those words again when we're explaining the cell cycle. So why do we need new cells? Because cells are continually lost. We also need new cells when we grow. Cells wear away, they get damaged, so we have to repair them. Okay, and this kind of cell division is all about growth and repair of cells. Okay, we can see it occurring there in the picture. So the cell cycle has 3 main phases. Okay, some books and videos may tell you that there's 2 phases, but really cytokinesis is a separate phase. Okay, so we start with interphase, second stage is mitosis, and then we end with cytokinesis. And you can see from the picture here that interphase is a huge portion of the time. Okay, so most of the time cells are in interphase, and then a very small amount of time in mitosis and cytokinesis. Let's look at each stage or phase in more detail. So stage 1 is interphase. About 90% of the time cells are in interphase. This pie chart looks a little bit like it's more than, less than 90%, but we'll go with 90%, okay? So this occurs before mitosis. It's where the cell is performing its normal function, whatever that might be. If it's a muscle cell, it's all about contracting and relaxing. If it's a nerve cell, it's about electrical impulses passing through it. So whatever it needs to be doing as its normal function, it's doing. And here, DNA is also replicating. Now, there's lots of words we can use instead of replicate. We could say duplicate, we could say copy, we could say... what else could we say? Replicate, duplicate, copy, anything that's along those lines, really. Okay, I'm sure the word will come to me at some point in time. So stage 2 is mitosis. This is about 10% of the time. So we've used 90, we've used 10, which kind of takes us to 100, but stage 3 cytokinesis is super, super quick. So you can see that the bullet points match up with the diagrams. So first of all, chromosomes thicken and become visible. So if we were looking under an electron microscope, we'd see those chromosomes becoming thicker and visible under the microscope. They line up on the spindle. So this is the second picture. It's kind of like the equator, if you like. We'll call it the spindle. So the chromosomes line up, and we can see they still have those two chromatids joined by the centromere. Third picture is the chromatids now. Okay, so you can see they're just singular structures, they've split at the centromere, and those chromatids pull towards each pole, so they're attracted to each pole of the cell, and you can see it's just starting to squeeze in at top and bottom. Okay, and the last part of mitosis is where two separate nuclei are formed. Okay, so we can see the chromatids are in each of their separate places. The two cells are still joined together, but the chromatids have separated, and they are identical. Okay, so it's like a mirror image of each other. Stage 3 is cytokinesis, the final part of the cell cycle, where the cell membrane finally splits and two identical cells have been created. They're identical to each other, they're identical to the original cell that they came from. Okay, cytokinesis, the third stage. So going from having, in the previous one with mitosis, they end up with two separate cytoplasms, but here we've actually got two separate cells, so the cell membrane is finally split. Let's look at that in a summary then. So there's 3 stages to the cell cycle. I've said please check your spelling because you must spell mitosis correctly, and you'll realise why when you come on to meiosis, which is a similar process but very different. So there's 3 stages to the cell cycle. We started with interphase, where the DNA replicates, so single chromatids become a double chromatid joined together with a centromere that we then call a chromosome. Mitosis, where the chromosomes thicken and line up. The chromosomes then line up along that spindle and move away from each other. 2 separate nuclei and cytoplasms are formed. That's the last stage of mitosis, so those chromatids have separated from the centromere. And then we've got cytokinesis, which is the 3rd stage, where 2 identical daughter cells are formed. We call them diploid cells, okay? Just think double. So any cell that has pairs of chromosomes in them, we call them diploid, okay? Double. And we can see from the pictures there, we've got 1, 2 and 3 representing the 3 stages. So we can see on that 3rd picture cytokinesis just occurring there. And just a reminder there that mitosis is all about cell division for growth and repair. Mitosis being that kind of important stage of the 3 stages of the cell cycle. If you're covering triple science or looking at doing science at A-level, you might want to be interested in the correct terminology for the stages of mitosis. We can remember it as PMAT. You don't really need to know this, but it's quite nice to match up the descriptions to prophase, metaphase, anaphase and telophase. So we're still looking at exactly the same cycle. We've got interphase first. Mitosis has just been split into 4 separate sections. Prophase, the chromosomes thicken, become visible. Metaphase, where they line up on the spindles. Anaphase, where they are being drawn to the poles there. And telophase, where the nuclei are becoming separate and the cytoplasms are separate as well. Cytokinesis, the splitting of the 2 cells to become 2 independent cells. Hope you found that useful. Thank you.